When you really stop and think about it, that ancient idea of the harvest, it goes so much deeper than just people needing help.
Hmm.
It's really about the incredible force that actually brings that harvest in,
Hmm.
the dedicated individuals driving change.
Right. And Christ's words, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few, from Matthew 9:37.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a simple call for more hands, was it? It points to something, well, much more dynamic.
Absolutely. More profound.
Yeah, exactly. And what's really interesting there is the shift in perspective it implies.
Hmm.
It moves beyond just sort of acknowledging the need
Mm.
and really focuses on the caliber, the effectiveness of those who are responding.
Okay, so it suggests the power isn't just in the scale of the challenge.
Right. But in the strength of the force meeting it.
Okay, let's really unpack this for you because that's precisely what we're diving into today.
Mm-hmm.
You shared some fascinating material with us, an excerpt titled The Harvest Force, Mobilizing the Agents of Change.
That's the one.
And our mission, our goal here is to understand this harvest force in a much richer way, not just, potential volunteers.
Right. Not just numbers.
But as something vital that needs careful cultivation, robust equipping, and real resilience. We're going way beyond just talking recruitment numbers here.
Exactly. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's about recognizing that significant spiritual transformation isn't like a passive thing.
No.
It demands active agents.
Yeah.
And the capabilities of these agents are absolutely paramount for any kind of meaningful, lasting change.
Right. So in this deep dive, our aim is to give you a really clear, comprehensive understanding of all the different roles, the elements that make up those involved in spiritual transformation.
Yeah.
We want to shine a light on those strategic, those supportive functions that often don't get the main focus, but are, well, essential.
Absolutely critical, yeah.
So let's start with a fundamental question. Who actually comprises this harvest force?
Well, what's interesting to consider here, based on the source material, is that it's far from a single, monolithic group.
Okay.
Instead, it's described more like a multi-tiered network, almost like a thriving ecosystem where different parts have specific vital roles.
An ecosystem. I
Yeah.
like that. Okay, let's break down the different layers then. Who are the key players we should be thinking about?
Well, right at the forefront, you've got what the source calls frontline workers.
Okay.
These are the individuals directly engaging with communities, pastors, missionaries, evangelists, various ministry leaders.
The ones on the ground.
Exactly, having those direct person-to-person interactions. Probably who most of us picture first, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. That's who comes to mind. But it sounds like the picture is much broader than just those roles.
Wow, absolutely.
Hmm.
The source also gives significant attention to intercessors.
Intercessors.
Think of them as the spiritual backbone of the whole operation. Individuals dedicated to prayer, discernment, and what's often understood as spiritual warfare. They're providing that crucial, though often unseen, spiritual support.
The unseen but vital layer. Okay, so frontline, spiritual support. Who else is contributing?
Then you have the support networks, and this is a really broad, essential category.
Right.
It covers everyone providing the necessary infrastructure resources, logistics, training, organizational structure.
So financial partners,
Yeah,
administrators.
exactly. Strategists, too. The people working behind the scenes, enabling the front line to actually operate effectively.
Wow. Yeah, it makes you realize how much infrastructure is needed, doesn't it?
It really does.
They're the nuts and bolts people, the engine room, maybe. Without them, even the most passionate frontline folks couldn't last long.
Precisely. That's a really important perspective shift the source offers.
Yeah.
And it further identifies cultural catalysts.
Cultural catalysts. Okay, what does that mean?
These are the artists, educators, influencers. People who have this unique ability to translate timeless spiritual truths in ways that deeply resonate within different cultural contexts.
Oh, so they're fluent in the local culture's nuances.
Exactly. And what's powerful about them is their ability to sometimes, bypass intellectual defenses and connect emotionally.
Make abstract concepts feel tangible.
Right. Relatable within their existing worldview.
That's really insightful. It's not just literal translation, but meaning translation within a framework. Requires deep understanding.
It really does. And finally, the source emphasizes the role of everyday disciples,
Everyday disciples.
which in essence includes all of us business professionals, students, parents, individuals in every walk of life who carry the mission and its principles into their own daily spheres.
So it's not just the domain of like professionals or people in specific ministry roles. Everyone has a part to play right where they are.
That's a crucial takeaway, yeah. The work of this harvest isn't just the responsibility of a select few, it's truly a collective movement. Requires a rich diversity of skills, callings, contributions from every level.
Okay, so we've established this. Harvest Force is diverse, multi-layered, a whole team. But what makes this force effective? It can't just be about having lots of people, can it? Quality must matter.
Absolutely not. As the source points out, effectiveness hinges on depth, resilience, strategic engagement, not just sheer numbers.
Right.
Think of spiritual maturity. It's not necessarily the absence of doubt, maybe, but the resilience to hold on to faith despite doubt. That becomes the anchor.
That makes sense. So what are some of these essential qualities then?
Well, the source first underscores spiritual maturity. We touched on it, that deep-rooted, robust faith. The kind that sustains people through the inevitable hardships, setbacks, challenges they'll face. It's the bedrock.
You can't pour from an empty cup, right?
Exactly. You really can't effectively pour out strength if your own wellspring is dry.
What other key qualities?
Next is missional clarity.
Okay.
This means having a crystal clear understanding of their own role within the bigger mission, but also a deep grasp of the ultimate purpose.
Knowing the why behind the what.
Precisely. So everyone sees how their piece fits into the larger tapestry.
Got it. Makes sense.
Then comes adaptability, the ability to navigate diverse cultural, social, political landscapes. It's crucial, especially globally now.
Yeah, the world's interconnected.
Totally. The core message needs conveying in ways that resonate everywhere. It's about being maybe a chameleon, but respectfully, understanding the nuances without compromising the core.
A respectful chameleon. I like that. Understanding the environment.
In an informed way, yeah. Following that, the source emphasizes a collaborative spirit, a
Collaboration.
genuine willingness and ability to work effectively with others in this network, recognizing the power in unity, interdependence, ego, individualism. They don't really fit here.
Ego has no place in a harvest. Sounds right.
Exactly. And finally, the source highlights endurance and resilience.
Ah, the long haul.
Yeah, the capacity to withstand opposition,
Right.
persevere through discouragement, stay committed to the often long, unseen work. Stamina.
Because this isn't a quick sprint. It's often a marathon.
It really is. Sustained effort over time.
Okay. So we have this diverse force equipped with these essential qualities. But what kind of headwinds are they facing? What challenges hinder them?
The source outlines several pretty significant obstacles.
Yep.
First is spiritual opposition.
Okay.
Any meaningful move towards transformation will inevitably encounter resistance, whether that's personal discouragement, direct spiritual conflict, or even like systemic barriers.
So not always something tangible you can see or touch.
Exactly. Sometimes it's just a pervasive feeling of being blocked or
Oh.
facing unseen obstacles. Then there's the very real, often debilitating issue of burnout and isolation.
Yeah, you hear about that a lot.
Many people in this force operate in incredibly demanding conditions, often with limited support, tangible or emotional. It can lead to exhaustion, disillusionment, a sense of being alone.
That really makes you think about the importance of those support networks we discussed earlier.
Absolutely crucial. Another major challenge highlighted is the lack of resources.
Practical stuff.
Yeah. Financial constraints limiting outreach, inadequate training hindering effectiveness, or just not having enough people for the need. These practical limits can be just as debilitating as the spiritual ones.
Right. The practical can be just as tough.
Indeed. And finally, the source points to the real impact of cultural and political barriers.
Okay.
Societal resistance to the message, sometimes overt persecution, governmental restrictions. These can significantly impede the work. They're really significant hurdles.
Wow. Yeah. It makes you realize that passion and dedication, while essential, often aren't enough on their own.
That's a key point the source makes for you. Even the most passionately driven individuals can falter, become less effective without intentional, robust support and strategic equipping. They need help navigating these challenges.
So, given these significant challenges, how do we actually begin to address them? What are the strategies for mobilizing, for strengthening this vital harvest force?
The source emphasizes a multifaceted approach is essential, one that integrates both spiritual empowerment to strengthen the core
Okay.
and practical equipping to enhance their effectiveness in action. It's really a two-pronged, interconnected strategy.
Right, let's dig into the spiritual empowerment side first. What does that look like practically?
The first crucial element here is cultivating deep discipleship,
Deeper than just knowledge.
way beyond just imparting theological facts. It's about fostering profound spiritual depth, building inner resilience for trials, nurturing a genuine intimacy with God.
Nurturing the inner life.
Exactly. So they can draw strength from that core. It's about spiritual formation, not just information transfer.
Formation, not just information. Got it.
Precisely. The second vital aspect is developing prayer movements, creating those robust intercessory networks.
The intercessors again.
Yeah, providing that vital blanket of spiritual protection and guidance for those on the front lines. Again, speaks to that unseen but critical support.
That unseen support, so critical.
Absolutely. And the third key component is fostering community,
Community.
encouraging strong accountability structures, supportive mentorship, overall robust support systems, directly combats that isolation, prevents the burnout risk we talked about.
Creating a safety net, a sense of belonging, shared purpose.
That's it, safety net and belonging. Okay, now let's turn to the strategic equipping side. How do we take that passion and translate it into tangible, lasting impact?
Right. Practical steps.
First key here is leadership development,
Training leaders.
providing comprehensive training that equips leaders to think strategically, disciple others effectively, lead with wisdom and vision.
You can't lead effectively if you haven't been equipped yourself.
Exactly. The second critical element is resource allocation.
Getting the money and tools where they need to go.
Focuses on ensuring the necessary financial support, educational resources, logistical aid, actually reach the individuals and ministries doing the work on the ground, getting the right resources to the right places, right time.
It's not just about having resources generally, but strategic, timely distribution.
Precisely. And the third crucial aspect is cultural intelligence training,
Navigating those cultural differences.
equipping individuals with the understanding and skills needed to do that effectively, engaging diverse communities respectfully and impactfully.
So they can speak the local language, literally and figuratively.
Exactly. Finally, the source delves into expanding the vision, adopting a more holistic, kingdom-centered approach. What does that practically involve?
Well, it places significant emphasis on engaging the marketplace.
Marketplace, like business.
Yeah, recognizing sectors like business, education, media as critically important mission fields themselves, broadening the perspective beyond just church walls.
That is a really important broadening of perspective, isn't it?
Huge. And this expanded vision also includes strategically leveraging technology,
Using digital tools.
effectively utilizing digital platforms, online tools to spread the message, connect, and support laborers across geographical boundaries. The digital age offers unprecedented opportunities.
Absolutely. Unprecedented connection.
And the third key element here is crucially empowering local leaders.
Indigenous leadership.
Intentionally shifting away from models primarily reliant on foreign missionaries, instead focusing on strengthening and equipping local leadership within communities.
That really speaks to long-term sustainability, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And genuine cultural relevance.
Exactly. Long-term sustainability, cultural relevance. So having really explored the who of this harvest force, the source then shifts to considering the where and the critical historical context of missionary work. Why is understanding and mapping these missionaries so important?
Well, the source compellingly argues that to truly harness the full potential of this labor force, we first need a deep, nuanced understanding of the landscape they're operating in.
More than just a list of names.
Way more. It's exploring the spiritual geography, the history that shaped the present, the practical realities influencing their daily work.
Okay. And the source emphasizes the spiritual and cultural terrain. Let's start with the historical roots.
It reminds us missionary work isn't new, right? It spans centuries. Early pioneers venturing into unknown territories, driven by faith.
Their legacy, resilience, adaptation.
Huge lessons for today. Understanding the terrain in all its dimensions is just as fundamental as the mission itself.
And within that history, the legacy of adaptation really stands out.
Yeah. Early missionaries learned to respect, integrate into local cultures, recognize inherent value there, not just imposing their own ways.
That sensitivity is still vital today.
Absolutely. And the historical lessons learning from past successes and failures helps avoid repeating mistakes, build on effective, sustainable strategies.
Makes sense. Learn from history.
Exactly. But the global terrain isn't static, is it? It's always shifting. So the source looks at contemporary cultural dynamics,
Globalization, technology, rapid social change, shaping everything. Missionaries operate in this interconnected world, cultures constantly intersecting.
And this global connectivity, especially digital, presents a duality. Opportunities for outreach, yes, but challenges too.
Like needing more cultural sensitivity online.
Definitely. You can't just broadcast a message without understanding the digital culture you're entering. Nuances matter.
Right, and the ongoing need for cultural relevance, balancing timeless truths with practices in communication that resonate now in specific contexts. It's a continuous challenge.
A complex balancing act, for
Yes.
sure. So, having examined the terrain, the source guides us to map the harvest force itself, the who and the where.
It starts with the spectrum of agents, reminding us again of the diverse actors involved.
Yeah, frontline evangelists doing in-person work.
The organizational bodies, ministries, churches, networks providing structure, resources.
And crucially, the digital pioneers, leveraging social media, online tech, reaching people in new ways.
Can't forget them. And the indispensable support and resource providers, financial, logistical, educational backing, underpins so much.
Absolutely vital. Once we know who these agents are, the next step is identifying gaps and opportunities,
Where are things working? Where aren't they?
conducting thorough regional assessments, evaluating where engagement thrives versus where the harvest is untapped, understanding the uneven distribution.
And looking at resource distribution, where are the trained people, the funds, versus where are the shortages so we can redirect strategically?
Exactly. And a crucial element is recognizing and understanding cultural barriers in different regions, then developing tailored strategies to navigate them.
Okay. Now, the source says this mapping isn't just academic. How does it connect practically?
It provides invaluable strategic insights for today's missionaries. There's an increasing reliance on data-driven decisions.
Using data, infographics, cultural info.
Yeah, even spiritual data to make informed choices about where to invest training, allocate resources, moving beyond just anecdotal evidence.
Towards a more informed strategy.
Right, and the need for adaptive strategies is crucial. Continually mapping, reassessing the landscape keeps organizations relevant, responsive, effective long-term.
And the source strongly emphasizes building collaborative networks.
Missionaries don't operate in isolation. Interconnected support systems allow real-time sharing of challenges, successes, fostering resilience.
Builds a more resilient force. And authentic cross-cultural partnerships with local leaders.
Vital. Ensures efforts are genuinely collaborative, driven by local needs and insights, not seen as imposed from outside.
Makes total sense. So, considering all this, what are the broader implications? Future pathways.
It calls for reimagining the mission landscape, exploring evolving methodologies like virtual evangelism, community-based research,
Expanding reach, deepening engagement.
and stressing sustainable practices, deeply sensitive to local cultures for long-term success, avoiding unintended harm.
And practically, actionable steps for missionaries and organizations.
Comprehensive training programs, spiritual foundations, and practical tools. Regular assessments of the mission field to stay informed, reallocate resources.
Technology.
Technology integration is vital for mapping, data analytics, and strong community engagement through local partnerships for shared ownership.
Okay. This concept of locating active ministries builds on that mapping idea, right? Focusing specifically on geographical and cultural placement. Why is that so critical?
Well, the source argues compellingly that even well-intentioned efforts risk duplicating resources in some areas.
While missing others completely.
Exactly. Simply due to lacking a clear picture of where ministries are already operating. You need that detailed understanding.
Got it. So the source frames this as the global tapestry of ministry. What does that involve?
Understanding the historical roots, how strategies evolved from early apostles to modern digital outreach.
And principles like adaptation over time.
Still relevant. Early missionaries learning local customs, plus using evolving mediums, traditional engagement, and digital platforms to overcome boundaries.
And the interconnected nature of ministries, seeing it as a dynamic network, not isolated efforts.
Right. Collaboration, communication, resource sharing. Multiplies impact, prevents redundancy. Sharing insights, strategies, challenges, key for synergy and adaptation.
So when we talk about the art and science of mapping ministries, what are the core elements?
Big emphasis on robust geographic and cultural intelligence, balancing vision with meticulous planning.
To assess regional saturation.
Identify overlap, yeah. Pinpoint outreach gaps where presence is sparse or absent, and evaluate cultural engagement or approaches relevant, respectful, sustainable.
And what tools or techniques does the source highlight for this?
A power of data analytics, GIS, demographic data, visualizing ministry density.
But not just data.
No, also the irreplaceable value of field assessments, gathering those qualitative insights directly from local leaders, people on the ground.
And collaborative networks.
Crucial for sharing info, building a dynamic, updated picture of the landscape.
Okay, what are the tangible benefits of doing this strategic mapping? How does it enhance effectiveness?
Leads to significantly better resource optimization. Not duplicating efforts, directing resources for greatest impact.
Encourages strategic partnerships.
Yes, in saturated areas and gap regions, and provides insights for assessing cultural sensitivity, ensuring approaches resonate locally.
And looking ahead, the vision for locating active ministries.
Continuous reimagining outreach strategies for evolving challenges, embracing technological advancements to refine understanding and reach, fostering global unity by bridging disparate ministries under a shared purpose.
So, for ministry leaders wanting to put this into action, what steps does the source suggest?
Conduct regular audits, quantitative and qualitative. Invest in ongoing training on mapping tools, cultural data interpretation. Cultivate strong local partnerships for relevance and respect. And foster an open network to share insights and strategies.
Okay, now shifting focus beyond just where ministries are, the source delves into assessing the gaps, understanding the hidden barriers hindering global evangelism. Why is this deeper analysis so crucial?
The source argues convincingly that while mapping tells us the where, gap analysis is vital for understanding the why behind limited impact or absence.
Discerning the underlying obstacles.
Exactly. It's not enough to see a blank space on the map. We need to know why the gap exists.
Makes sense.
What's insightful is how it breaks down the imperative of gap analysis, moving beyond mapping to consider factors like resource constraints.
Uneven distribution of money and people.
Right. Which can mean even dedicated efforts struggle without essential support. It also delves into cultural misalignments.
Where the message doesn't resonate locally.
Yeah, despite its truth, it might not connect with local values, beliefs, traditions.
Yeah.
And it addresses political and social barriers, restrictive laws, social opposition. Often needs innovative approaches.
Really context-sensitive approaches.
Absolutely. And importantly, it considers spiritual opposition, that unseen realm where prayer, discernment, resilience are vital.
So a robust gap analysis needs to look at the external landscape and the internal capacity, the spiritual fortitude.
Exactly. A dual lens of analysis for strategies that are informed and holistic, addressing the multifaceted realities.
Let's dig into those challenges more, starting with resource constraints.
The source highlights the impact of scarcity of funds, especially in unstable regions where basic survival needs dominate, hindering outreach.
And limited personnel.
Ministries stretched incredibly thin due to lack of trained laborers. The example in the source, a small ministry in a remote area, survival needs consuming resources, really brings it home.
Yeah, it paints a picture. Then cultural misalignments.
Need for cultural relevance, evolving the presentation to connect with contemporary audiences, and profound respect for local traditions, adapting outreach while introducing spiritual ideas respectfully.
Like the storytelling example.
Exactly. Using traditional methods within an oral culture, a beautiful illustration of bridging that gap.
And navigating political and social barriers.
Requires understanding legal restrictions, developing creative, indirect methods, addressing social opposition through collaboration with local leaders, sometimes discrete methods.
The example of the ministry pivoting to community service under restrictions.
Shows adaptability and sensitivity, yeah.
Finally, spiritual opposition.
The source emphasizes the realm of the unseen, needing strategies involving prayer, divine guidance, and holistic engagement, equipping laborers with tools for spiritual warfare.
Like the prayer cells example, underscores that unseen spiritual backbone.
Vital. So having identified these gaps, how can we transform challenges into opportunities?
Proactive resource management, targeted funding, capacity building, developing culturally attuned methodologies, contextualized outreach, community partnerships.
Skillfully navigating political and social complexities, innovative ethical legal strategies, and strengthening the spiritual backbone prayer networks, spiritual training.
Ultimately, the vision is transformative outreach. Optimizing resources, enhancing cultural relevance, fostering innovation, cultivating a spirit-driven approach to bridge gaps for a unified, impactful mission.
Right. Now let's turn to the interplay of resource allocation and synergy, building that cohesive network where everything works together harmoniously.
This part really drives home that success isn't just passion, it's Orchestrated interplay vision, strategy, intelligent resource allocation.
Creating a mosaic where every piece fits.
And at the heart is vision meets strategy.
Exactly. Vision gives direction, but strategy identifies needs and channels resources. Integrative planning, mapping the field, aligning resources, and a holistic vision, seeing how each effort fits the whole, become crucial.
And the power of synergy, the combined energy creating something greater than the sum of its parts.
Yes, leading to enhanced impact. Trained people, support systems, modern methods working together, and sustainable growth. The mission becoming a learning, adapting network.
The source outlines 3 pillars of a cohesive network. First, training and equipping.
Goes beyond basics. Comprehensive theological training, language and cultural fluency, essential cross-cultural communication skills.
The story of the missionary immersing in language and culture.
Beautifully illustrates the impact, yeah. Building trust.
Second pillar, sustainable support systems.
Vital for resilience, long-term commitment, consistent financial backing, programs for emotional and spiritual resilience, ongoing leadership development for growth and empowerment.
The example of the agency investing in leadership and resilience.
Shows the tangible impact.
Third pillar, innovative methodologies.
Integrating traditions with modern tech, strategic digital evangelism, effective media outreach, hybrid ministry models combining in-person impact with online reach.
The hybrid campaign example shows how they complement each other.
Definitely. So the ultimate transformative impact of strategic resource allocation and synergy.
Fundamentally, turning vision into action. Greater operational efficiency, enhanced dynamic adaptability to changing circumstances, and significantly amplified outreach through coordinated efforts.
It's a practical blueprint for the future. Regular assessments, tech investment, fostering collaboration.
It all powerfully leads to a unified call to transformative action. Invest holistically, leverage tech, ensure resources flow effectively for a vibrant, sustainable movement.
Now, the source thoughtfully transitions into bridging vision and action in global evangelism and modern stewardship, connecting aspirations with tangible impact.
And the first key element is continuous learning.
Yes, in a constantly evolving world, evangelism needs adaptation, informed action, dynamic theological education relevant to today, active pursuit of cultural studies and digital strategies, committing to regular knowledge updates.
The insight about the missionary using digital platforms for virtual community.
Powerfully illustrates this in action, yeah.
Second element, collaborative engagement.
Because meaningful mission is rarely done alone. Cultivating partnerships and shared best practices, building robust networks for support and resource sharing, collective problem solving for shared challenges.
The story of churches collaborating on community service.
Beautifully shows the power of unity.
Third, deep cultural sensitivity.
Authentic evangelism respects the cultural context, needs empathetic engagement, tailored communication for cultural nuances, genuine cultural integration where appropriate.
The example of using local storytelling traditions.
A powerful demonstration.
Fourth, strategic resource deployment.
Using all resources, personnel, finance, tech, thoughtfully, effectively. Careful personnel allocation, efficient financial management, minimizing overlap, innovative logistics and technology.
The practical application of using real-time data to adjust outreach.
A concrete illustration.
And all these lead to charting the course for unified transformation, integrating learning, collaboration, sensitivity, resource deployment for a cohesive, impactful global movement.
Finally, the source concludes by emphasizing cultivating a legacy of truth and transformation through modern stewardship. What's the essence here?
Understanding stewardship goes beyond just efficiency or managing resources. It's deeper intentional action, holistic care, a long-term focus on legacy building. Stewardship as transformative leadership, empowering change, lasting influence.
And it revisits the 3 foundational pillars of modern stewardship: continuous learning, collaborative engagement, strategic resource deployment.
And powerfully emphasizes bridging knowledge and application, translating theory into practice, creating a legacy of empowered communities, transformative leadership.
It culminates in a powerful, unified call to modern stewardship, balance timeless truths with contemporary realities for enduring, meaningful impact.
And that brings us to the final unified call of the source material, really tying everything together.
It underscores balancing timeless truths with contemporary realities through continuous learning, collaboration, strategic resource deployment.
It highlights the urgency of awareness in our distraction-filled age, seek knowledge, illuminate the path, counter misinformation.
and issues a call to bridge knowledge and action for enduring impact, understand the field and force, make informed decisions, cultivate transformative leadership.
And touches on the broader implications for leadership and community, creating growth environments, building a legacy of truth, inspiring new leaders.
Mm.
Ultimately, the mission continues, with unified stewardship leading to transformative action.
So, to wrap up the key insights from our deep dive, we've seen the harvest force is diverse, interconnected, needing spiritual depth, strategic planning, robust support. Overcoming challenges demands integrating spiritual empowerment, practical equipping, and an expansive vision.
Right.
Mapping the landscape, locating ministries, assessing gaps crucial for resource allocation and synergy.
Yeah.
And modern stewardship bridges vision and action through continuous learning, collaboration, cultural sensitivity, strategic deployment.
Okay, that brings us to a final thought for you to consider. We spent a good amount of time on the frontline roles, but take a moment. Reflect on the often invisible laborers, the intercessors providing spiritual cover, the support teams behind the scenes, the cultural catalysts bridging understanding.
Yeah, the ones not always seen.
How might consciously recognizing, valuing, empowering these often unseen roles fundamentally shift our understanding, our approach to the harvest?
That's a deep question.
And maybe more personally, consider where your own unique skills, passions, resources might contribute to this vital force. Even if it's outside those traditional frontline roles, it's a powerful, maybe unexpected idea to really chew on.